So everything kind of changed on November 3rd of last year. It was a Monday morning. I was waking up to go to work. I was doing the part of the development for the Pan Am Athletes Village down next to Canary District, or Distillery District. I was rolling over in bed thinking about everything I had to do that day. And I rolled over and opened up Facebook on my phone, as we all do. And just scanning through my news feed. And then my eyes drawn to the top of the screen, where I noticed a number that was much greater than the 1 or 2 notifications that I was accustomed to. It was 354. And immediately, it was like this wave sort of started to rush around me. I was like, oh shit, what was going on? And I hit that little button up at the top, and all of a sudden I saw that there was about 250 shares and then, hundreds of comments and all sorts of stuff of this crazy thing that I had posted on Reddit the night before. Now, I freaked out. I called my dad right away. I was like, Dad, I don't know what's going on, but something's blowing up. This is crazy. And he's like, whoa, slow down. I was like, okay, well, look, I wrote something on Reddit yesterday. And he's like, all right, what's Reddit? I'm like, I don't know. It's like the front page of the internet, as they call it. I don't know. It's like where everything comes from. He's like, okay, all right. So what did you put on? It's like, well, that round the world trip that Liz and I had booked? Well, I was like, so I kind of, this idea came up at this dinner party as a joke, and we kind of figured, what the hell? And I posted up this ticket. And he's like, why would you do something so stupid? And so I had to get to the office. I rushed ahead. And it wasn't really until later in that day when it became very real about how big this thing was starting to become. I was leaving a meeting later that morning. And I walked by a secretary at this office that I'd never spoken to before. It was the first time I had ever met her. And just sort of said, hey, how you doing? And then she said, you're that guy. And it was that moment when I realized I was really in trouble. So just to take a step back for a sec, so about 2 months earlier, I had a difficult breakup with a wonderful girl, and it was a very amicable split for the both of us, which made it really tough. And one thing that we couldn't really figure out what to do with was this trip that I had purchased for us as a Christmas present. And I was at a dinner party on the 1st of November at Woodlot on College Street, amazing restaurant. There we go. And a friend of mine said, so what are you going to do with that ticket? And I said, well, I tried to cancel the ticket, couldn't do that. I tried to change the name on the ticket, couldn't do that either. So I don't know. I think I'm just going to go alone on the trip. And it was a pretty cool trip, bunch of different continents, yada, yada, yada. And they said to me, well, have you thought about trying to give it away? You've paid for it. If you just gave away the ticket to somebody with the same name, maybe someone could actually use it, because why? It's a great trip. It's a shame for it to go to waste. You could probably find someone with that name. It's a fairly generic name. And we just burst out in laughter. It was the craziest thing anyone had ever come up with. And we started talking about the logistics of how you would try to find someone. You're like, what do you do? Search on LinkedIn and be like, do I have a proposition for you? There was really no way to do it in a non-creepy sort of essence. So anyway, great night, went out with some friends, had fun. Next day, it was a Sunday, I was at my office getting things ready for the week. I opened up my laptop, and I had this moment where I was like, I've heard of this website called Reddit. I didn't even have an account. I had never been there before. And I went to it, and I started looking around. I was like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, who knows? What the hell? At the end of the day, maybe someone will be able to use this thing, and that would, on one hand, it would mean that someone could go on a great trip. We don't even have to hang out together. I just want someone to take the plane ticket. And on the flip side, it would also make me feel okay about going on the trip, knowing that someone else was going to put the other ticket to good use. So I wrote a very, very tongue-in-cheek post that has subsequently gotten about 1 billion impressions between Imgur and Reddit. I wrote it in about 15 minutes, didn't proofread it. Big mistake. And I hit send. And then immediately after I did that, it got flagged and taken down. And I got a message from a moderator. I don't understand how the Reddit gods work. And I got a message from the moderator, and he says, this is not of international notoriety or international interest, you have to change it to the Canada section because I posted it in the travel subreddit. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So I moved it over, almost didn't. I thought maybe it was a sign from the universe, but I moved it over. And then posted it up, then shared it on my own Facebook, and then went to sleep. And then that brought me back to Monday morning. Effectively, what happened after that point was the story in the first 48 hours got about 40 million social media impressions. And then within the first 4 days, it got 1 billion media impressions. It was actually fairly small news in Canada compared to India and Thailand, where I still get very, very kind letters every day. And it was honestly the most bizarre experience of my life. Because on one hand, of course, this thing's happening. I tried to actually kill the story, which is a whole other, I could talk about that for a while. But in the first day, I actually tried to kill the media coverage, and I kept sort of sneaking back up. And then I'd call journalists and yell at them, but apparently they don't like that very much. So it was billowing. I couldn't control it. 29 different Hollywood producers called. It was crazy. I can't even explain. It was like every paper that you've ever heard of, every radio show, like Jimmy Kimmel, Ellen, everybody was all over this thing. So effectively what happened is I was like, okay, this has to turn into something good for somebody. So I actually do have to sort of give away this ticket now. And by this point, about 500 different Elizabeth Gallaghers had inquired as well. Which was, beyond belief. And then actually many hundreds more women also inquired, willing to change their name and get a new passport. It all culminated in effectively, figuring out someone that was going to do something else. So here's the thing, and here's why I'm standing on the stage right now. What I asked for in the post was for someone to pay it forward in their own way one day. And that's it. I said, I didn't want any money, don't want a relationship, I don't even care to be your friend. Just, take the ticket, go do your thing, do something good for someone else one day, and we'll call it even. So of the people that inquired, that was my number one question. That's really all I cared about. I just said, what are you going to do for someone else one day? And I ended up connecting with someone named Quinn Elizabeth Gallagher from Halifax. And she said in this email to me, I've always wanted to go back to Thailand. It's the only place outside of Canada I've ever been, and I taught there last year. She said, I want to go back and bring Christmas presents to the kids that I taught. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's way better than what most people were saying. They were like, I want to be on Oprah, That's how I'm going to pay it forward. So we, and we had a very similar sort of belief about, paying it forward and doing good little deeds in the world. So anyway, she ended up traveling with me on this trip. And it was, at this point, it was such a global story that, we could go most places and walk on water. It was very, very confusing. I've never thought I'd be in a situation where I'm walking down the streets in, Hong Kong, and, a group of, teenage school children would, come up to us and start poking us and being like, you guys are real, you guys are real. But that's the level that it was. But what made the trip very special is that Quinn and I were total strangers in this bizarre situation. And what was magical was that we really looked out for each other's best interest. We were doing random kind acts for each other all the time, whether it was getting each other little mementos on Christmas Day when we were in Vienna, all the way to, there was one night where she ended up locking herself in a subway bathroom of a closed subway station. We had to break her in and find her. All the way to, on New Year's Eve, I actually got roofied by a bunch of Russians at a Thai bar. And she took care of me and made sure I got home safe. So we were doing that. But what was even more was that afterwards, and during the end of it, we started to get these emails from people all around the world saying, this story has inspired me to give away these baseball tickets I have, or give away this train ticket, or anything that was transferable, basically. And that was really touching because it was this idea that we could do something greater. And that led into a charity that we launched called A Ticket Forward, which is dedicated to helping people that have never really had the chance to see much of the world get out, even for once in a lifetime. It's kind of like a Make-A-Wish Foundation, only for adults, and children too, but just a broader mandate. And now it's this idea of how do we take this silly, stupid little viral thing and turn it into something that's much greater. And I think at the end of the day, if with all the crazy media kerfluffle and the ear of the world, even just for a quick second, if we can just, I don't know, I'd like to think at the end of the day, even if we helped one person experience something they haven't before, then it's a real win. And hopefully we'll be able to encourage other people to give up plane tickets with the names of other people and do very simple things that seem meaningless but actually have a really big impact. And that's what will make the world a beautiful place. So thank you very much for listening, guys.
Thank you again, Jordan Axani. That wraps up the second act of Raconteurs, but we will be back. We have 2 more storytellers for you, including somebody who worked for the actual Make-A-Wish Foundation. So he's been on our stage a couple times. Anyway, I encourage you all to go get some beers, tip your bartenders handsomely. We're very, very pleased to be at the Transac. It's a community organization, and they need our support. So I will see you back here in about 10 minutes.